Hey everyone, it's Zach with Palantir Research. Only 1 week until earnings, so I'll be sharing my thoughts on the top voted questions by investors and also an interesting link shared by EtherSquare. So post today, it looks like for a couple weeks, ARK Invest has had access to Palantir Foundry/AIP, and as noted before, these are links, so technically it's still speculation without any formal PR, but the length of time can indicate it's fairly new and a pilot for trial. And this is not too surprising coming from a fund like ARK, and to be an early adopter, this is no surprise. This could be an interesting take to see if this will actually produce any difference in their operations and investment decisions. But bigger picture wise, what I'd like to see is over time a greater adoption of other major funds in the investing industry utilizing the software, because that could be one of the ultimate use cases of tying data together and then of course testing your hypotheses and getting a return. So in the beginning of the early adopters, it's supposed to put you ahead of your competitors. And as more and more notice they need it just to compete, the ultimate goal is really just making Palantir become something that keeps you at par, because anyone without it would be behind or need to put significant investment into your own kind of platform. So maybe this is just the beginning, but that's still just speculation. Then earnings are 1 week from today. I think it'll be important to see the questions on investors' minds after we've had some time for votes. Now, for some of the top questions, these are already obvious no-brainers and will be addressed by the results, but still shows how important this is for folks to know the expected growth percentage for 2024. When they release earnings, guidance will be there and we'll see what this is. But I think what's actually behind this question is how the expected growth figure for revenue provided will be achieved. But from my perspective, the baseline answer I would like to see at least is a reacceleration of growth. So in my video about expectations for earnings that I made a week ago, I talked about revenue on a yearly basis and how it has decelerated year over year. I think investors want this trend to be bucked, but expecting some huge turnaround might be a bit ahead of ourselves. So I want to at the very least see this go into the right direction now, and if magnitude is large, then all the more better. Now, next question is, what is the short-term and long-term roadmap for Palantir? This will probably be addressed in the earnings call and will be very related to how they answer the first question on growth percentage. So for myself, the short-term plan will probably be driving more traffic to AIP bootcamps and continue to focus on the commercial expansion as their government business either stagnates or sees minuscule growth. So I'd be surprised if their short-term roadmap deviates from this, considering the huge amount of PR, events, and interviews have talked about their focus on AIP and the bootcamps. Now, for the longer term, I'm hoping they do address the government growth and their expectations. As we've heard many times, it's lumpy, but we know that there are some major contracts around the corner, especially for the United States military. And what also would be interesting is clarity around their work in Ukraine and if we are getting to a point of monetization. We also hear a lot about the use cases now, especially in demining, reconstruction, targeting, but we don't really have an idea of the dollar amount or timeline around any of this. So for the longer term roadmap, I hope management at least comments on these, and it would be even just that they're still uncertain. That's fine, but at least we know there's uncertainty. Now, if they do talk about global conflicts, the elephant in the room will also be Israel, but also I'd be intrigued if China and Taiwan came up too, since it's on everyone's radar as the next big conflict possibly brewing. We know Palantir will support the United States and our allies around the world, so if there's any clues on preparation work out there or with neighboring allies, that'd be interesting to know. Now, the next big one for investors' minds are S&P inclusion expectations. I don't think this question really does anything for anyone. Once the Standard & Poor's makes their decision, we'll know. Management won't have the most insight into this necessarily, and more likely this would be released in a PR than, say, on an earnings call. But for those who don't know, the rebalancing typically happens on the third Friday at the end of each calendar quarter, so if you're looking out for that leading up to these days are your best bet. Now, onto the most intelligent and amazing question any smart investor would ask for a growth company like Palantir. And I'm just kidding, just in case you didn't pick up on that. When will Palantir start paying dividends? Just to humor the question though, Palantir has set aside money for buybacks and it's GAAP profitable for a few cents. So are you expecting to get like 1 or 2 cents dividend each quarter? And does that even make sense to distribute while they're in this phase of trying to grow? Now, paying dividends is a sign that a company doesn't see a better way to get a return on that money. So they're returning it to investors to make you do the work yourself and find another place to invest it. Plus, that's an added tax event for you. So it's just a big headache and doesn't make sense at all, in my opinion, for the near future, let alone for management to answer when they expect this. Now, I think Palantir is in this position of being GAAP profitable and are accumulating cash with positive cash flow still is a good thing for them to stay in this phase of building up their cash pile for opportunities and flexibility. We've heard those comments coming from Alex Karp where they're reorganizing themselves to keep up with the AIP bootcamps, so we may need to hear about those investments to do so and help them do that. If in a fantasy world they did give a concrete timeline on when they're paying dividends, I would actually be a bit concerned that they're seeing opportunities shrink and would need to play the game to appease investors. Now, the next question I really like actually, what are your key R&D priorities in the near future, and how do you expect these innovations to contribute to your core business and open new market opportunities? Now, when it comes to hearing out products in the pipeline, we don't hear too much until they're actually announced. You could say their last product was AIP, and before that was Apollo, then Foundry, then Gotham first. So I'd be interested to see if their key R&D priorities expand upon AIP, and if they talk about possibly their mixed reality products. We've gotten that tweet from them last Friday pointing out the immersive command controller IC2 on the trailer, and that was released by the Army. So my best guess is that they might bring up this product line and how it is a big opportunity in not only the United States government, but also for allies around the world, because it was a joint activity with the Macedonian military, meaning this technology is starting to be shared around the world. Now, for the scale and dollar amount, I don't expect that much detail from management, but it'll be cool if we get any confirmation from management on all these teasers. And then the biggest surprise too would be if they bring up something completely or entirely new and not known about before from their R&D priorities. So I'll keep my ears out during the earnings call for this specific question, but those were some of the most interesting questions for me, at least at the very top, that were voted. Let me know below what you think is also important for them to ask, and I'll see you in the next video.